Welcome to another Wargame review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look at a two-player wargame from High Flying Dice Games.
One of the small publishers we talked about last month in the debrief.
In our April monthly debrief.
Yeah.
I remembered.
Yeah.
So this game is called Walking a Bloody Path, Fallen Timbers 1794, which is a very long title. But it is for a not very long game.
No.
Paul does a series of these games, and the series is called Battles of the Old Northwest.
Yes. Yeah.
I think this is number.
This is the.
Is it 6?
This is the 6th volume, but there's like a volume that hasn't been released yet that's lower than it. So there's only been 5 that have been out.
Because I thought there had been 5, but okay, there's another one. So there's a series of these two-player war games, and what is the Battles of the Old Northwest?
Yeah, so the Old Northwest was in the 1770s, 1780s, 1790 as the American, country had been formed after the Revolution. They're moving west through the Old Northwest Territory. Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, parts of Illinois, etc., as they're just moving west. So they came into contact with Confederation of Native American tribes who didn't take kindly to the white man's expansion into their territory, and they fought.
Yes.
They struggled to fight for their way of life.
And seemingly they were supported, whether actively or proactively, by the British?
By the British, and if you remember, a couple of the later volumes are actually during the War of 1812. So I believe I'm trying to remember the names, but I can't. I'm drawing a blank. Okay. But they are kind of fought around 1811, 1812.
Okay.
And they're a part of that War of 1812, where the British aligned themselves with the Confederation and went after the fledgling United States. Burned the White House and,
all that
jazz
stuff.
Yeah. So, they were upset that they lost the colonies and they wanted them back.
Yes. So these are small format war games.
They're folios.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. They're played on a map that is like 2 letter-sized pieces of paper, but it's one. I don't even. This is what?
Would it be legal size? Not quite legal size.
Is it? It's not even 22 by.
I think your description of 2 8.5 by 11 is pretty close.
Okay,
frankly.
Cool. That's what it is. So it's a little small thing. In this one, the counters is like I got 20 counters. You got slightly less than 20. So you have all the Indian units, and then there's variants which have some British, and then I played as the US, where I've got 2 major formations, and it's their more of a trained infantry army with some.
Well, you have some trained soldiers that have very good combat factors, and then you also have some militia,
and I got some artillery pieces and a couple of cavalry as well.
Yeah.
And so it's not a tactical level war game, but what you're playing out is pure tactics. There's no supply, there's no anything like that. It's here's my units, we're activating them back and forth within a cool activation system we'll talk about. And it's I'm moving within the terrains that are there, trying to do some effective combats or assaults, trying to rally units with leaders and things like that. And you go back and forth over a series of turns. There are a couple, kind of decisive auto-victory conditions, or you just score victory points at the end of, I think it's 8, is it 9 turns?
Yeah, it's 8 turns.
Oh, it's 8 turns.
It will not go more than 8 turns.
Kekianga was the same way as well.
And historically, in the designer notes, they talk about 3 to 4 turns it lasted about an hour, the battle. So 3 to 4 turns represents an hour. And that's about all it's going to go because
so
of attrition.
Like 20 minutes.
Yeah, attrition and the way the combat system works and what happens, how difficult it is to rally units. You're going to see your units wither away and die, not easily, but they're going to die a little quicker than you expect.
Yes. And what's interesting in this is that you're like, the first, you take some shots, I get disrupted, then I take some more shots, then I get reduced, then I take some more shots, then I become routed. And I can suffer one more hit, then I'm eliminated, or I just run off the board.
Yeah,
things go bad. So it's not just 2 steps of units. Those disrupted kind of gives you an extra step that you would normally have over other war games.
But they give you negatives on various types of attacks. You also can't do assaults when you're disrupted. So yeah, it's ultimately it gives you 3 or 4 steps.
So your units can be durable, but they degrade very quickly.
They become, I think, almost combat ineffective.
Yes,
especially with one of the special rules about low ammo. When you roll a 6, you throw a low ammo marker on there.
Yeah.
And man, all of a sudden,
they're -1 to shoot.
It's very hard.
You're already -1 shooting into rough terrains.
Yep.
It's so things get real bad. You're trying to roll low in this one.
Yeah.
So those give you it reduces your
combat effectiveness.
Numbers. It's interesting in that way. But yeah, they're not long war games.
No.
And they're
to me, this is going to be about an hour and 15.
Yeah. And the rules are at most, if you don't use. Like, the rules are 15 pages, but this is like a takeaway menu.
It's like a pamphlet.
Yeah, it's not these aren't like, and there's like huge margins. It's not a lot of rules. It's very quick to pick this up and learn.
This actually feels very period. It's like a tract that somebody put together.
It's printed at the front at least. It's printed like a little tract.
Kind of thematic.
Yeah, it's nice. And the little setup is like full color and matches the map.
I thought the setup was very good. There was only one kind of non-clear description, and that was about Little Turtle, the leader. We weren't totally clear. Is it with anybody? Or is it with this formation?
He's on a little island that says he can set it with any of these units.
Well, these units are the entire page, so...
Yeah.
Anyway.
That was the only thing that was a little unclear. But, you can make a reasonable judgment call on that one. So, we've played one other game in this system.
Kekionga.
Yep. Loved that game.
Yeah, we had a really good time with that one. It actually had a lot of the same setup and a lot of the same terrain type elements, although it was cornfields in Kekionga. Here we had kind of broken up trees and forest.
Yeah, there was some felled trees and destroyed forests.
But ultimately the cornfields and the trees gave me as the Native American player the same benefit.
Yes.
They protected me and allowed some of my attacks to be a little bit better.
When you assault out of them, you jump out of the trees and it's got cool attacks. But
we did like Kekionga a lot. We played that almost 3, maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And really enjoyed it. We did a video on that one if you want to check that out on the...
It's very old.
It's very old.
We look very different, and it was...
I feel like we've gotten much better.
It was a different... Well, but it was nice playing this, because I look fondly back on that game.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it. It was something that was very different.
Yes.
From what we normally play. And the artwork's great.
Yeah, Niels Johansson is the artist for this, and he's just literally created a very unique signature style for these.
Yeah,
games.
when you see a game by him, you know it's his.
Yeah.
His art, even he does the artwork on the front cover. Oh, it's great.
And the counters are just so amazing. I mean, these, this is a Shawnee warrior, and it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
I just love these.
They're great. And this has a very distinctive style to them. So when you got this recently, I was excited because I remember how much I liked that game.
Mm-hmm.
And wanted to sit down because other people have been playing this. I'm like, I'm jealous. Like, I want to get back to these.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad we sat down and played it because it brought me back to that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember how much I like these.
Mm-hmm.
This period, this setting, especially at this scale, is so interesting. Because I would say, like, this is a single battle, almost like a battle line style game where you got your units moving around tactically, find each other. There are not a lot of games in this period at this scale.
Mm-mm.
Most of the games that cover these types of encounters or battles, in the 18th century, are usually on a much grander scale.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, you get the map of like the whole eastern seaboard, basically,
right?
And you're playing at that scale, which is interesting. It's fine,
like a King Philip's War, or what's the one from Compass Games? I wanted to say Bloody River, but it's not.
Oh, Blood on the Ohio.
Blood on the Ohio.
Yeah.
Those are similar style games, meaning they're covering this period, but they're huge scale.
Or you get even like War of 1812 games will have the Indians in them.
Well, it's like the whole eastern seaboard, like you said. The whole Great Lakes area. This is literally one battleground.
It's very focused.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it feels very intimate.
Yes.
I think it also, literally these counters probably represent 2 to 3, Indian warriors. and
I
yours
think it's slightly
maybe
more.
it's like
probably
10.
a dozen. Yeah.
Yeah, and then yours are probably
I think mine are companies.
companies. So you're talking
Yeah.
20 troops, 25 troops, give or take. So it's not a very big scale game. I mean, you're literally talking about an area that's probably 3 or 4 football fields that they fought this battle on, and that's it.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know, and these are the only games that I've played in this period, in this setting, at this scale, and I really, really like them. I don't know what it is about that, but
It's different.
Yeah, it evokes like documentaries and movies that I've watched that involve this style of fighting with these styles of factions, and I get that from the game.
Yeah,
and
every time we play this or Kekionga, I think of the part in Last of the Mohicans with Daniel Day-Lewis, where the defeated British column is marching through the woods, and they kind of come to that open clearing, and all of a sudden, all the Native American Indians, they run down off the hills, and it's just like an open battle. That's what I feel like this is.
Yeah, it's that kind of. I don't know. I just these are the only war games that I've played that make me feel like that, and it's very interesting to see that in a game that is eminently playable and not particularly complicated.
No, and the system that they use, Paul does this activation system with these cards.
Yeah,
to me it fits this. We talked a lot about that in the game.
Yeah.
It's chaotic. You can't rely on
very unpredictable
going.
Yes.
You can't necessarily rely on going
well.
You may get skipped 3 or 4 times and then win, but only get a couple of activations.
Yeah,
so it's a bad activation, although you won.
You have a deck of cards, and you take out all the face cards, and then you take all the red numbers from diamonds and hearts given to one player, and all the spades and clubs go to another player. And basically, activation is done with. You shuffle them up.
Yep.
You each pull 1 card. I pulled a 2.
I pulled a 10.
So he beat me. And what that means is that he gets 10 activations and I get nothing. And so he does 10 activations. We pull again. I pulled a 6.
I pulled an 8.
And so he gets another 8 activations. I get nothing. And so he's pulling all of his good cards.
Yep.
And so
it's going to even out at the back end.
He's got fewer good cards, but you keep going, and then we both got a 3. So
you would go because
I would
we
go
tied.
because on a tie, the person who didn't activate 4, but he's just had 18 activations, and I get 3.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Like that's some of what this game is.
Yeah.
It is. There's huge momentum swings here and there, and that's what it can. So you just have to understand that that's part of what this gets into. However, generally speaking, over the aggregate of you pulling,
we counted it out. It was like, what did we figure? It was 9 activations to 9 activations.
Yeah, we kind of shuffled them up and kind of went through it, and it was either 9 to 9 or it was like 8 to 9.
Yeah, it was very close.
Things that even out the longer the game goes.
Yep.
And you also have a joker in there. The first time a joker gets played, there's a random event, and then you just move on. The second time a joker comes from the other deck, that ends the turn. And then you move on to the next turn, you reshuffle them all, and you start that again.
So your turns could end up being very short.
Yes.
If both your jokers were up in your top, say, 5 or 7 cards, man, it could be over pretty quick. We did not have that.
Yeah, or if
we had very long.
If they're both at the bottom, your turn's going to be very, very protracted.
Yep.
And that hurts. Well, it can hurt if you've used up all your good cards early and you're like, you've only got these bad ones coming. Like, oh, God.
Well, and that's why sometimes you win, but you don't really win.
Yeah.
Meaning, I beat you with a 4 and you had a 2, so, I get 4 activations when, you had seen I had a 10 and a 9.
Yeah.
And it's just, sometimes winning with bad ones isn't as good as not winning.
And if I pull a 10 and you pull an 8,
not
only have I won and I get 10.
You've taken out a good card.
You have one, your good card is gone.
Yeah.
So you can double win. And so it's a neat little system, and Paul uses it in a lot of his games.
In a lot of games, yeah. But I like it because it creates that air of uncertainty.
Yes.
To me, I can feel myself standing in the middle of a glade with some trees knocked down and all this black powder smoke around me, and I'm trying to tell my guys what to do. Oh, I did really good this time. And the next time I pull a 3, and it's like, ooh, I really did badly that time.
Yeah.
I just can feel it.
It's nice. It's nice. And the other aspect of that I really like is that it makes it... eminently solo playable.
Yeah, you can double fist this.
There's no hidden information.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like a chit draw. It's a card draw. You pull, who goes, so you just do the best you can with them.
Yep.
And then you pull again. Oh, we do the best we can with their activations.
Yep.
Which again I like, and that takes the, I don't know, it takes the I don't even know what you'd call that. But you can't telegraph yourself what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Because it's unpredictable.
It really is going to be surprising when you're playing this solo.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what cards are there.
Yes.
But I did that with one of his other games, the Assault on Firebase Marianne.
Does that use a similar card system?
It does. Uses the same card system. So I played it solo. I played 3 or 4 games, and it worked out really well.
Okay.
There were times I was pulling for the VC as they were trying to get into the base, but then sometimes I was pulling for the Americans to get it together and actually wake up and so I think to me that's what this is going to create if you do it solo. It's going to be playable, it's going to be interesting, and I think it's a good game to do that the way it's set up.
Yeah. But this is a great 2-player game as well, right?
Yeah.
Every game's better 2-player, frankly.
Yeah, well,
that's
but
my
a lot of
opinion.
our viewers they're going to have to play this, alone.
But what's nice is that this is a short game as well. It is
an hour
at
the most.
You can kind of squeeze in somewhere.
Yeah.
And like, hey, you want to sit down and play a short game? This is not a massive commitment.
Well, we did talk about that also. Some of the tactics for the Native Americans could involve a little more hit and run, could involve some more cagey, and probably should, a little more caginess where you're kind of moving, and it could draw the game out. It could protract it.
Yeah, if you can, especially the way that the map's set up, and I'll show you here in a second, if you can kind of pull the U.S. infantry away from their artillery into the broken, and you can start doing some assaults in there where they don't have artillery support and the cav are a bit more slowed down, or if you can target the cav and you can get them out, that's big points for the Indians as well, which is, I don't know, it's very... there's some really neat things you can do with it.
Yep.
It's
so I guess that's why I think if you're both aggressive like we were tonight, you can play this in an hour, 15. If it's a little more tactical and strategic, I think it might stretch into 2 hours because 8 turns. 8 turns with potentially 18 cards each.
Yes.
If it's not going to work out like that.
It's very unlikely, yes.
But it's possible.
Yeah.
So
and that's just it. It could go much quicker purely based on the cards that you draw.
Yeah.
If your jokers keep coming up, it's
you're going to have quick turns. I also, one of the things I really like about it is the combat system is very simple, but it feels right. So as you go through it and you're thinking it through, Indians in forest, hit and run tactics, it makes it, they get a bonus for this. So you're going to want to do that often. You're going to want to stay to the safety of the tree row and try to do those things. But, the Americans have those cavalry. Man, they can run all the way up and assault very well. That's nice. Their artillery are also very good, although you can't move and shoot.
Yeah, they're very slow.
They're very slow. So it's a matter of, that's why you made the comment, get the infantry, the enemy, the U.S. infantry away from those cannons.
Yeah, if you can pull them off, it's...
so they can't do anything.
They don't have the support.
Yeah. So there's a lot of elements there that I think feel very, very thematic, and frankly are very, very enjoyable. The leader element is pretty cool. There's leaders that allow units to get bonuses in combat, but also provide bonuses for rally attempts.
Whilst they're in good order. And then if the leaders start dying, they make it, it's a 50-50.
Yeah.
If someone in their stack gets disrupted or reduced, they roll, and it's a 50-50 odds and evens.
Yep.
The leader gets reduced. And if they get reduced again, they die.
Yeah.
And when your leaders start dying, it hurts your army morale, which means it's harder to rally people. They also, I think, do they give up VPs? No, I don't think they do.
I think yours, the US's did. The Indian leaders weren't as... Little Turtle, I think, was.
It hurt, your big leaders hurt your morale even more.
Yeah.
You lose, double morale. It's kind of crazy. So... but then you also lose all those benefits from combat modifiers and things. So it's a very simple way to do leaders without having a ton of, here's my command radius and how many commands can I do and all this kind of stuff. It's very, very simple.
Well, and I also like that, you have enough leaders that you can kind of spread them out around the map.
Yeah, you have 2 or 3.
You can really help your units quite a bit, which I think is good.
Yeah.
One of the things we didn't like was the rule book.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite.
It used different tenses from time to time. It used different focus nouns or identifying units versus unit, or
it would talk about things in plurals, and then
Yeah.
it would talk about things singularly, and it was just like, all you need to put is like one sentence that says, when you spend one act, pick one unit to do one of the following things.
Yeah.
That's all it needs to say. It doesn't say that.
No, it doesn't.
But it's implied if you read it thoroughly.
Yeah, which we did, and we tried to get that. Yeah.
But there's...
Here was my favorite. So this is one that just absolutely makes no sense.
Yeah.
Stacking is not allowed, comma, with the following exceptions.
Yeah.
You don't need this because you're listing the exceptions where you can stack.
What you should say is you can stack in this condition and this condition, and then at the bottom, no.
Units from the same formation may stack in the same hex.
Yeah.
That's all you got to say. Don't say anything else because it made it confusing.
Yeah.
To me, it made it confusing the way it was
you started with
lined
a
out.
negative and then gave all the exceptions, whereas you could just say two units from the same formation can stack together. One unit can stack.
Yeah.
And a leader can be with a unit. That's all, right? So that's just, like, it's fine. We learn the rules and we play the game. But just, I wish there was just an extra layer of specificity in the rules that would make it just that extra level of, like, read it, play it immediately.
Yep.
We had to, like, hum and ha about a couple of ways to, like, how should we interpret that thing?
We actually spent 20 minutes in the middle of the game trying to understand a couple of concepts.
Is that what that means?
Yep.
Like,
and I think we came to the same conclusion and then played it the rest of the game the right way.
Yeah, like it has to do this thing because otherwise this doesn't work.
It doesn't make sense.
But like, all you have to do, that you can write a sentence in a certain way, which we don't have to have that 20-minute conversation.
Right. I think the thing you got to remember about this game is one activation for one unit.
Yes.
So 1 unit moves. That's one of your 8 or 7 or 9 activations.
Or 3.
Yeah, right.
And that's why those cards can be very punishing.
Yep.
If you win and I pulled a 3 and you pulled a 2, great. I get 3.
I get a turn, but I only do 3 actions.
I can shoot with 2 guys and rally 1.
You can't get much done.
You've got 20 units on the board.
Yeah.
Whereas if I pull a 10, I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
Bam, 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 bam. Move
Rally.
rally.
Move.
Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of. I think the more we sit here and talk about it, I like the card activation system because
it's nice.
It's interesting.
We haven't done it for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. We revisited it. I'm like, yeah, I really enjoyed that. The other thing I like about the game is it does offer several variants that we did not play.
Yeah.
But there's some variants regarding British reinforcements and Fort Maumee and how it reacts with morale. And we didn't play those, but there's a lot of neat elements like that makes this game really multi-dimensional. Meaning you can play it the base game, you can add this in, and then add this in, and
there's some optional rules, some variants, and it just changes the little focus of how your game is. Gives you a little bit of extras.
There's a retreat before, the Indians can retreat before an assault combat from the United States, which is very cool. That's a variant.
Yes.
We talked about it. We're not sure that you're going to be doing that very much, though, as the United States because of the odds of certain type of attacks versus others, and the negative results that you can avoid, like an automatic disruption because you rolled a 6 on your own assault attack.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
And I'm a more cautious player by nature, so I'm like, I would rather take the worst shooting attack that can't hurt myself than the slightly better assault, which can hurt.
And when you say the worse and the slightly better, it was literally 2 out of 6 hits for the assault.
Yeah.
Or it's 3 out of 6 for the fire attack.
The other way around. It was
the assault is less than your printed combat factor. So if you have a 3, you hit on a 2 or a 1.
Yes, but when I had the low ammo...
The low ammo, that's right.
We were talking about... We were analyzing some situations that we were in where I'm like, I would always shoot.
No matter what.
Almost never assault.
Because you can't disrupt yourself.
Yes.
And that's the one negative, that it's so bad that, and I did it. How many times did I do it?
Oh yeah, you
3 or 4 to myself.
numerous times.
Yeah, because assault is better for the Indians.
Yes.
You get more bonuses,
You have a
particularly if
specific
you're
modifier,
running out of woods. So I don't know. I liked that element. I also liked that discussion because it was fun to think about.
Yeah.
And I think if we played this again immediately, I think our battle would look very, very, very different.
Yeah, and that's one thing about us, our rambling videos. We do a lot of theory crafting whilst we're playing these games.
It's a blast.
Well, in
What if
this
you did
situation,
this?
this, and this, and we try to break down these things as we're talking about it as like, what was the designer trying to do with this?
Yeah.
And as such, these two armies are fairly asymmetrical.
And that is one thing I liked about it. It's cool that they're asymmetrical.
But like the way that they model those things is interesting. Like,
it is.
Your units have they're all 3s.
Less combat factor. Most of your units are 4s.
So your assault target number is lower. You have to roll a 1 or a 2. However, out of broken, you get a -1.
Yep.
So it effectively brings that up to a target number of 3.
Yep.
On
Which is the same as volley fire.
Yeah.
Or
so
rifle fire.
50-50 on assault.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Whereas I've got a mixture of like really good trained units with a target number of 4, which is easy to roll, but I'm often having detrimental modifiers
because you have low ammo and you're shooting into
bad terrain.
Those fallen trees protected him quite a bit, and that was part of what they decided to fight
shooting into woods, right?
Yeah.
Even in World War II games, shooting into woods is a bad idea. But I've also got these like militia units, which are just like pathetic.
Oh, a 2 combat factor.
You're just you don't assault with those guys. You're never going to hit. You have to roll a 1.
I don't even know why they're there, frankly.
It's equal odds that you will hurt yourself versus actually scoring a hit.
It's
so
bad.
you just plink with them with a little fire roll die. You might
hit
something.
once in a while.
So, but like just in such a small game, there's some asymmetry in it, and it feels that way. It's neat. It's cool
and I remember that from Kekionga as well.
I felt that very strongly.
Yeah. Once again, in Kekionga, it was you were fighting in cornfields. And it was very cool to see the Native Americans, kind of run around and use those cornfields to their...
Going back in, popping out, going back in.
And I remember that, and this, I think, was very similar in that the terrain became a major character.
Yeah.
We've talked about that in other games. I needed to stay in those broken areas, and that's what I tried to do. I also tried to make you shoot up hills more often than not. So there's a lot of things there that the Indians have got to use, or you don't have a chance.
Yeah, or if I can push you back out into this open up in the north side of the map,
be bad.
The open fields, I'm like, pow, 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 my shooting becomes much more powerful.
Yeah.
Yes. So, okay, what I'll do is I will show the board and some of the rules so you can kind of see this stuff, and then we'll wrap up with some final thoughts. So here's a look at the map. As you can see, it's this kind of a portrait layout. And the U.S. forces start lined up here. They have like a green formation for Hamtramck. And then they got Wilkerson over here. And so they're lined up here. And then there's a couple of these purple and black dots. These are black dot hex rows. These are purple dot hex rows. And the Indians that set up here, they have a little bit more freedom where they can set up in some of those rows. They set up first, then the US player sets up yellow ones over here, green ones over here, and again you can kind of stack them within the rules and limitations how you want. But the game, the first part of the game, the US player rolls a d6 and adds 2. They get 4 acts, 4 activations. So they get a little free thing beforehand, then you start getting into the card draws. When you draw cards, and I'll show you that here in a second, if you win, you get a number of acts, and the acts have from this little menu. So you can either move, fire combat, which is shooting, you can move an assault with cavalry only, you can do just an assault with anyone, or you can do a rally act. So that's what that is. So, a card draw. Each of you has, as we mentioned, a deck of cards. You have 2 through 10 of 2 suits. So I've got hearts and diamonds in this one, and a joker. So you've got 18 cards plus a joker. And you shuffle those up, and quite simply, both of you pull a card. So we pulled an 8, and we're going to go up against a 6. So let's say this is the US player. The US player wins because they have a higher number, and this gets discarded, and the US player gets 8 acts or activations. So with your 8 acts, you can activate 8 units to do one of these things. And what I mean by that is each unit can do one of those things. So you just pick a unit and you go for it. And I've just knocked everything over, haven't I? Fantastic, so great. So let's say we've got this little unit down here, this Kentucky militia. He's got a little 3 value, which that's its combat factor, and he's got these 2 little pips down here in the bottom right. That's his move factor. So let's say he's going to attack. We'll have him do a fire action. He's going to shoot these Shawnee Indians right here. So what I need to do is I need to roll a d6, and I need to roll my combat factor or less. So I need to roll a 3 or less. Well, if I'm shooting into broken terrain, which these kind of dark green heavy trees are broken terrain, I shoot at +1, which is a negative modifier in this instance. So we're going to shoot at +1. However, I'm stacked with a leader, and the leader gives me -1. So those are a wash. So I just roll a die, and I need to get a 3. I rolled a 5, which is a miss. So that wasn't great. That was one of my 8 activations. And we had a little D10 counter here, so I got down to 7. Let's say I'm going to shoot with the second guy that's under that stack. And we'll go down to a 6. He's going to shoot, same thing. He has the same combat factors. I rolled a 1. That's even modified. That's less than my combat factor. That's good. That means I score a hit. The first hit you score does a disruption. You put a disrupted marker on there. And what a disrupted marker does is it means that this unit, when it shoots with a +1 penalty, and a disrupted unit cannot assault. And assaulting is close combat. They can't charge. They will not do it. They're not allowed to. And if they themselves are charged or assaulted, they give off a positive modifier. It's easy to charge a disrupted unit, basically. So that's that first hit. Now let's say we were to go over here and activate one of my other units. So I'm going to go down to a 5. I've got these guys. They normally have a 4 combat factor, but when I'm on low ammo from a previous turn, so I'm a -1 to this number. So this is a 3. My target number is a 3, so I need to roll a 3 or less. Again, shooting into this broken terrain is a +1, so I need to roll a 2 or less on a oh, that's the wrong die. Don't do that. We've done that before. I need to roll a 2 or less. Oh look, I rolled a 5. Imagine that. So they miss. And that's what you're going to do with your activations. You can do shoots. If you do an assault, for example, so if he was going to assault him, you don't have the -1 because you're doing a bayonet charge, so your low ammo doesn't matter in that instance. So, but when you're shooting, you have to roll equal to or less than your combat factor. When you're assaulting, you need to roll less than your combat factor. So actually, it's kind of the same thing. But because we're assaulting, we don't have a penalty to into broken terrain because we're not shooting, we're assaulting. And we're going into someone who's disrupted. So I need a 3 or less. However, it's a 4 or less because they're disrupted. No, I did it. I said I wasn't going to do it, and I did it. I rolled the d10. So I'm going to roll an assault, for example, and I rolled a 4. So that 4, the disrupted unit gives me a -1, which gets me to a 3. And 3 is less than a 4. We knew that. That's simple maths. So in that instance, we would do a hit. He's already disrupted, so he gets reduced. So now he's reduced and disrupted. If he takes another hit, he becomes routed. If he takes another hit, he's fully eliminated. However, if he stays routed, and I get the Indians get a turn miraculously somehow, then they have a chance to rally them. To rally, you have to roll your morale level or less. Their morale level at the end of our game was 1. It was real bad. If you don't rally them and you end your turn, all your routed units move 2 hexes, regardless of terrain, back towards your edge of the board. They literally start routing off the board. Again, you have a chance to rally them before that happens, but rallying guys can be hard, especially if your army morale's low and you don't have a leader with you. If you have a leader with you or adjacent to you, you get a -1. You have to roll under your morale. How do you increase your morale? By killing enemy units, by killing enemy leaders. So these swing a lot. If I kill a bunch of yours, you kill a bunch of mine, the morales change. So you want to do attack, 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 try to kill some guys, get your morale up, then roll your rallies once your morale is high, so it's easier to do it. There's a lot of neatness in that, which I appreciate as well. Let's get rid of some of these low counters so you can kind of see them. Then so there's cavalry. And cavalry just have higher move factors. They can kind of move further, but the cavalry are very precious to the US. If they give off more victory points if they're defeated. But that's kind of what this game is. You go back and forth with these activations. So if it's a tie, the person who didn't activate previously gets it, but they only have 2. That's real bad. Once you pull that first joker, wherever it is, hey, we pulled a joker. You roll a d6 on this random events table, and you do an event. Once the next time a joker comes up, wherever that is, it ends the turn. So you end the turn, you reshuffle your deck, so you get all your good cards back in, and you go again. But it's this back and forth. I do a number of activations if I win that card, then you might do one on the next card, or I might go again. There's a lot of double turns in this that I found, and it's moving, attacking, trying to pull back, trying to rally guys, trying to form a nice line again. It's a fun, it's an interesting little game. The artillery are real slow. They can either move or they can fire. You can't. They can fire and they can't move. So they're very slow. So if you, as the Indians, if you can kind of pull back and bait the infantry out and get them off their gun lines, it's great because these are so slow. If you pull back, you'll start getting into these later turns, and you might be able to win by victory points. Because the Indians have a tough time in this one. It's not completely lopsided, but they need to be cagey. They need to be careful with their resources, which is their manpower, basically. And if you don't, you start to take a lot of losses. Things can steamroll real quick. But again, it's the same for the U.S. A couple good assaults from the Indians, especially on the flanks, take out cavalry or 2. You can kind of, give them a bloody nose, and then they have to regroup. It slows them down, and I think that hurts the U.S. more in the long term than it does the Native Americans in this one. So that's kind of a lot of what this game is. It's not a complicated game. You give up victory points by killing guys and leaders if it comes to that. But if you can, I think the auto victory conditions were, oh gosh, I want to say it was, I can't remember what it was. Oh, if you reduce someone's morale level to 0, which is you lose a morale if you kill. If 2 of your units get killed, you start losing morale if your leaders are killed. So if a lot of your forces are getting killed, your morale's going to drop, and if it ever drops to 0, you're dead anyway. Like, it just ends the game, so you don't have to play out the pulling teeth of I'm losing every single unit before I declare a loss, which I appreciate as well. So that's how this game works. And what we'll do is we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So that was a look at the map.
Beautiful. Again, I mean, it's just so... And we actually looked at some of the other, editions that I have, and that one... Which battle was it? I don't remember now.
Was it Tippecanoe?
Maybe it was Tippecanoe. The battlefield literally is a 3D drawing. It's with relief behind the hexes that makes it look so fantastic.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I would love to see that modeled in other types of war games.
But I'm like, how hard was that to do?
Oh, I'm sure it was terribly hard.
Very interesting.
But beautiful production. I think the counters are top notch. Paul sent us the mounted counters. So if you're going to buy these,
pay the extra $5.
Spend the extra $5 because he'll spray glue them onto gray. What do you call that? Gray board or
and they're precision cut.
Yep, he'll cut them so they're really sharp. You don't need to clip them. They don't have any fuzzies sticking off of them. But counters are beautiful. The map is gorgeous. Love the rules book pamphlet style. I just think the production value in these games is off the chain.
And they're a little for a folio game.
Well, this is a $16 game. You throw the $5 on for the mounted counters, it's $20-some.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
And genuinely, I would never not buy the mounted counters.
No, I bought a couple of games from them, and I bought the first without the mounted. After that, I bought the mounted.
Yeah, you only do that once.
Yeah, you only do it once.
Unless you're some counter-mounting professional, and some people are, but not me.
Yeah, and I did it on my first game, but they did not turn out well. I didn't do a good job.
Yeah,
but
that's well worth the $5.
But beautiful production.
Yes. I enjoyed it. Like we said, the rules, you can get there, but like just one activation activates one unit to do one thing.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the rule. And only like that sentence isn't in the rule book, and I wish that it was.
Yep.
Because if it was there, it would
be clear from the get go.
You would literally set this up and play immediately, and you would play all the rules correctly. Oh, the one other thing that I wish this game had is one little chart with the modifiers.
Combat modifier would be fantastic. If it was right down here and said...
Or just move the stuff over.
It would be so nice to have that.
The assault and fire, even the rally modifiers.
Yeah.
If you just had a little list of those on the map...
Yep.
Sure, they're right here in the book, but you keep having to look at those to remember what they are and who gets them, because not everyone gets all the modifiers, depending on what side they are. If that was printed on the map, that would be the only thing that I was...
What I would do, if you buy this game, I would actually get a postcard. Yeah. Like not a postcard, but like a
little
what do you call those? Note card. And I would write those modifiers out. Yeah. And I would put it right next to the game board so that you can speed your play along.
Because then you can just never look at this game.
You can actually flip it over and use the random event part and be done with it. So to me, this needs just a very simple play aid, but I think you can create it and it's not going to be that difficult.
Yeah. Other than that, again, we've played other ones in this series. They're a blast.
I just don't know what there's not to like. It's a simple game, low counter density, fairly simple rules once you get the clarity in your mind, and really interesting and engaging play. It's fun. I have a good time with this. I sit there as I'm stewing and I'm watching you kick my butt because you've had 2 activations in a row. But I always tell myself, it's gonna come back around, Grant, and it does.
And it does, yes.
So that's great. If a game can make me feel that way, that's fantastic.
Yeah. A pair of tweezers isn't going to hurt you in this game either.
Too many administrative counters.
Yeah, because each unit can have a low ammo counter and a disrupted counter. Stacking limit's only 2, but if you've got 2 units and they're both under those conditions...
You have 6 units.
Which happens more than you'd like. Yeah. You can have 6, and these aren't like thin little white counters from major wargame publishers. These are pretty nice counters. So, and if you've got them kind of bunched up, it can get a bit of... Because you've got to take them off to reduce a guy, or you've got to take them off to turn your disrupted to a
That was the worst
him.
Part. It wasn't so much putting the thing on top of it, but when you had to take that off to reduce the guy after having thrown a low ammo marker on it as well, it just caused a lot of
Or you want to attack
havoc.
the guy at the bottom of the stack, get him a disruption, you got to take him off to...
Or how many times did my guy was already disrupted and he was a 2... And I was still thinking, oh, he's a 3.
So you got to check,
and it just becomes a little bit of a hassle.
Yeah, so a pair of tweezers is going to serve you well in this one, only because it's a small map and it's kind of close together. Yeah, that's all. But yeah, other than that, I had a blast with it.
I don't know why anybody wouldn't play this and think it's a good game. That's my opinion, but the cost, it's there. Production,
especially for the cost.
Yeah,
your cost to fun ratio in this is very high,
and we've enjoyed the other volumes, and I look forward to maybe other ones in the future. I just enjoy this period. I enjoy this type of combat, and I think this system works well together to create, I think, an engaging experience.
Well, yes, and it's all. Okay, here's a question for you. Mm-hmm. Does it help that this series is fairly local for you as well?
Well, I think growing up in Indiana, we had Indiana history in the 4th grade. I learned about Matt Anthony Wayne, who was one of your major leaders, as he fought the Indians in Indiana at Fort Wayne and in other places. I learned those stories. So yes, for me, I think I have an affinity for this because This is in my backyard.
Yeah, and I think a couple people that I've spoken to feel that same way.
Yeah.
Where it's
The Battle of Fallen Timbers, I think, was in North Ohio.
Yeah.
Like, I want to say around the Toledo area. I'm probably wrong in that, but Kekionga was like around like Cincinnati, and then one of the other battles was up in Tippecanoe is up in Lafayette,
Yes.
Indiana. So yeah, it feels really close to me, and is something I grew up with.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I don't know, there's always something to that. Where, like, you know, if we're playing World War II games, I play as the Brits, right?
Yeah.
If there's games that are about where I'm from or things that I have an association with, those always, I don't know, there's something extra there for me. And it's nice.
Isn't it connection?
Yeah,
Isn't that kind of what it is?
Yeah, like
either my father or my brother was
Yeah.
in this unit, or
like,
I mean, I hear that a lot.
I've been there. I've visited there. You have that Mound Builders game, like Mound State Park is just
because
up
it's
the road.
Mound Builders
We
by
have
Victory
those.
Point Games. I love that game. It's not a great game, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Because I know that history. Because I've been to Mound State Park. Mound State Park. You live 20
It's
minutes.
literally
from
down the
Mounds.
road from
10
me.
minutes.
I can go there and like it. So there's something to be said about that.
Well,
And
isn't that what history is about? That's why
I think so.
I think that's why we like these games, because we are passionate about history.
Well, and there's also this series of games, and I love Paul for having done this.
Yeah.
There is history everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think, where they make war games about things that aren't Battle of the Bulge and East Front, it's great, because it just shines a light on things that have happened, maybe locally to you, or where it just, I don't know, it's something new and interesting.
Yeah.
And you're right, that connection to it kind of can elevate a game, and just the little pieces of history they've got in the back with the designer notes. And
Well, we were
historical
reading
notes.
through the designer notes at the end, and it was talking about, hey, the real battle took an hour, and that was 3 game turns, and you know that stuff's great, because to me it sheds a lot of light on what did I say after our first turn. I was like, how's this thing ever going to go more than 2 or 3 turns?
Oh,
it didn't.
It didn't.
You know, and that's fantastic.
Oh, it's so good.
Because
it's so good.
That's the way it should be. History should be repeated in some ways, but you should have an opportunity to potentially change that.
That was funny though, because you said that, and I was like, oh crap, you're right. Is this a bad game? Like, is this stupid? Like,
no.
It's 8 turns, but it's only going to go 3. And you read that, I'm like, oh,
yeah, right here.
It's genius.
As it turned out, the Battle of Fallen Timbers was decided in under an hour, about 3 game turns. You know, right there.
Yes.
So that's great. That's great.
Yeah. So this is Walking a Bloody Path, Fallen Timbers 1794.
Yeah.
Check out High Flying Dice Games. We talked about them in our monthly debrief last month. This is one of their games from that Battles of the Old Northwest series. They have a number of other games as well. Some solo games. And, you know, this is one of their better game series.
I think this series is very well done. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I also think his series on the Iran-Iraq wars are very good. We haven't played them, but I've messed around with them, and they're pretty good.
Okay.
You like tanks? Some of those, Battle of Basra has a lot of tanks. Now, they're not good tanks. You got to keep that in mind. They're old T-34s that are falling apart. But
that's the fun of it, though.
But there's so many series that they have. I've played some of his Vietnam War games. Some of them are good. Some we didn't like. We played a couple that we didn't like.
Yeah, it wasn't my favorite. And I've played a couple of his Depths of Courage games, those solo sub games.
They're simple.
Very simple. They use a different card activation system, and you use those instead of dice, basically.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to explore on there. But this series does come with some pretty high recommendations. For a little folio game,
you can't beat it.
They look fantastic.
Yep.
They're fun. You move your captures around. You do your combats. It's fun. It's great.
Well, and if you guys follow us on Twitter, I think the pictures from our game as it played out were just fantastic.
Yeah.
They're great to look at. It's a beautiful presentation. It's very cool.
Yeah,
So
Nils is the best. His artwork's off the chain. Love it. So, check this out, High Flying Dice Games. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.